So this is the Scratch interface. We have things called sprites, which are the elements on the screen, and we have a thing called the stage, which is the background. And clicking on either of these puts a blue box around it so you know what you've selected, and then each one of these gives us a different set of options which can be used like Lego bricks to put together to ask the computer to do stuff. So one of the things that happens is if you click on stage and you try and find some blocks, because a stage can't move, there are no motion blocks associated with it, so you need to make sure you've selected the correct item. So for the fish tank, the first thing we're going to do is, obviously we don't want a cat, so I'm going to click on the delete button there, and you get a delete sign when you mouse over the scissors, and I'm just going to click on the cat to remove it. I now have just a blank stage here with nothing else whatsoever. Luckily for this particular unit, I can actually go and get a sprite from a file. So because a few exist which are appropriate for a fish tank unit, so I'm just going to go to open, and within animals there are some sprites that we can choose. So I'm just going to have a little think about what kind of sprite I want. So I'll choose a lobster and just say OK to that. Now if this is the space within which the lobster is going to be based, it's not a very big space, so one of the things we can do is try and make that lobster slightly smaller. So there's next to the scissors there's a grow sprite or a shrink sprite button, so I'm just going to use the shrink sprite just to shrink the lobster slightly. And to understand the space that we've got here, you might see that when I move my mouse over, the X and the Y coordinates here change. So this has actually got an XY reference. So let me just click away to get rid of my pointer. So this is an XY reference. And to make it clearer for the students when they're working on this, to decide where their creature is going to move, if we click on stage and then click the backgrounds tab over here, we can actually import a background, and within the backgrounds folder there's an XY grid, and if I click on OK, it will tell me that X goes to -240 over here and +240 over here, and Y goes to 180 and -180 down this way. So this is quite a good reference, because we can then decide how the creature's going to move, because obviously if you've chosen a crab or a clam or something, they're probably going to move along the bottom. Little fish are probably going to swim within these two quadrants and not get too low because they need a bit of sunlight, and this is probably where the plankton is. I'm not sure about a lobster, maybe that's kind of a bit like a crab and it can crawl along the seabed here. So it just kind of gets us thinking about the creature in terms of space, so the sprite in terms of space. The other thing I'm just going to point out about the interface is the fact that we've got a green flag here and we've got a stop red button. So the green flag means start the green flag scripts, and that stops everything from running. So those two are important, because the next thing we're going to do, at the moment I'm clicked on background or the stage, so because that's got a blue rectangle around it, so I'm going to click on my sprite because I'm going to try and give my sprite some movement, and click on the scripts tab here, which will just be blank at the moment. So scripts is the actual programming code that you're going to apply to this sprite. So we want the sprite to be able to move. So I can kind of look down the list of different things that can be moved, and because it's a fish tank and because the success criteria are about a relaxing, an interesting, a calming fish tank, then I'm going to use this glide block. And what the glide block says is, it says take 1 second to go to X0, Y0. So but this is already 0, 0. So to move it over here, I probably need to say something like go to x240 and y0, because then it'll just stay on this axis, and maybe take about 3 seconds to glide there. Now I can double click on this to check it working, and you'll see that this, when it was running, it had a white rectangle around it, and my lobster's moved all the way over there. I can pick the lobster up, put it back over here. It has no relation to this particular block, and then I can click on this, and it's moving a little bit faster because it had longer to go, and then it kind of stops there. So I'm going to get this to move not just by double clicking but by clicking on the green flag this time. So I'm just going to say, when I've clicked the green flag, then I want you to glide, maybe take about 5 seconds to get there, and then after you've gone all the way to there, then I want you to glide back again. So I want you to do exactly the same thing, and rather than having to drag this out and type it in again, I can just right click on that and then select duplicate, and then snap this to the previous one, and this time instead of going positive y, I can just say minus 240y, and then run this, and whoops, there it goes, and stops. So in the next video we'll look at how to basically get this to go around forever, and maybe make changes to the lobster.